Good evening, cousins, and welcome to another episode of the Shattersong LARP Diaries. Today, we're going to be taking you through a choose your own adventure kind of episode. And to help me on this noble adventure, I have a special guest. Special guest, reveal yourself.
I'm really milking this special guest thing, but hi, it's me, Amber.
Hello, Amber. I like to introduce you. Just first of all, I don't want to get sued, and secondly, is if someone listens to this like out of kilter, then they might not have any idea who you are, and that would be a crime.
No one listens to this. What do you mean?
Well, I can tell you that in fact we have over. I was looking at the stats today. Let me pull them up very quickly. I was actually astonished by two facets. One is that we have a very healthy American audience. So hello to the
Wow.
Americans. Um, it must be pretty scary over there right now. Not gonna lie,
How's it going,
it
guys?
seems a bit wild, and they make up nearly 15% of our listeners. And we also have a healthy chunk from Australia, Canada, Ukraine, and France. So hello to everyone in those countries as well.
Wow.
And a special respect to the Ukrainians as well, managing to squeeze in this, I'd say, rather nonsensical podcast when you have such real issues at home. So big love going out to you. And
Very sweet.
from Amber
Maybe.
as well, of course.
Yeah, yes, probably say that for me too. I wish you all the worst. No, no, I hope you guys are okay. But are we picking up where we picked off last time?
Well, that's the thing. So, yes, but that doesn't help us define where we're going to go because, on one hand, we have part three of Empire, which is round about sort of 6 p.m. onwards. We're just about to launch into the 8 p.m. skirmish, but there's a couple things to cover before that. And then there's also Menhirs Fate Part 2 that we have been a little bit slow getting out.
Mm.
And whilst we had a really good froth about it last time, the second episode was going to be maybe more. We're giving it a review. It's a brand new LARP. Let's be critical. Let's try and find, despite our high scores for it, let's try and find something that's wrong with it and have a bitch and a moan, basically, that everyone likes to listen to. And depending on what vibe you're feeling right now, you get to pick.
Oh wow, it's a lot of pressure. I wish I had a coin. Let's go with. I mean, Men's Fate is this weekend, so let's chat some Men's Fate, and then if we've got time, we can then record another sneaky part about 6 o'clock on E1.
Ooh, all right then, ambitious. So we're going to go for both. Okay.
Yeah.
All right then. So, welcome, Heroes of Haven, to another Shattersong LARP Diary episode. This time covering part two of our first Menhirs Fate experience. Amber, do you remember where we left off last time?
Absolutely not. I think we did a good roundup of the event as a whole. We touched on a couple of things we'd like to improve. I don't think there was any structure, as is, the Amber and Chris way. But I guess we could maybe start with your kind of how you rated maybe like the camping and how you rated the combat, and maybe we go through those sort of things and see if there's any holes we can find.
Yeah, definitely. And what I was going to say when we originally planned to do this episode, like a month ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever.
Been that long? Wow.
Yeah, I think so, because it was 2 weeks. It was Menhirs Fate and then 4 weeks before Empire. Then 2 weeks after Empire, we've got M2. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Anyway, having had a chance to play Empire in between, I think it's only hardened some of my praise for Menhirs Fate. And you might be expecting me to say, and it's also hardened some of my negatives, but actually not really. I think it's actually highlighted why Menhirs Fate is in such a good spot on the LARP scene at the moment, and just how many issues it addresses with other large fests in the UK. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, the patented Shattersong review cycle that I constantly get wrong. It's kitten camping, IC interactions, OC interactions, combat, and then overall. And if you want to give something like combat a score out of 10, let's say I want to give it a 9, I have to support it with 9 bullet points. So what this does is it naturally helps you froth and talk positively about something that was good. And if something was shit and you give it a 3, you don't need to dwell on it. So I think it's a very positive way with reviewing quite literally anything.
Let's give it a go. Should we start with the camping then?
Absolutely, and I'd nearly just forgotten what category one was. So thank you so much for
That's
bringing
why
it
I'm
back on
special.
track.
That's why I'm here.
Okay, let's
Um,
start with camping. Amber, how was your camping experience at Menhirs Fate 1?
I'm gonna go with a solid 7. Um, and do I need to do my points now, or do I wait for your seven, your number?
That's the thing, is you do. And if you don't, it's against the
Okay.
law, and we will get sued. So you got to follow
I
up
mean,
quite
well,
sharpish.
okay, okay. 7 points. Okay, well, I'll go with first up. 7 positive points.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So, touched on last time the lighting,
yeah.
having sort of OC fairy tale lighting, especially at night. Big thumbs up. Um, the fact that we were with all of our crew. I know that's not something that the events organizers did, but just having all your mates around, coming back, opening a few beers, sitting down and going off about like the day.
Hmm.
Love it, and it's always a highlight with any LARP. And I'd say it was nice actually camping OC for once because when we're IC, you've got the pressure of sort of being overheard when you're near other LARPers and maybe like you want to talk about I don't know, maybe you're like, where's my asthma pump or something, or like where's something in my tent, and you don't really want to be loud about it because you've got other LARPers nearby. But camping OC was actually quite nice because you could just sort of dip in and out of like general day-to-day stuff.
General day to day.
Um General day-to-day salute.
And things
um
like Nissan Micras hitting werewolves at 70 miles an hour, and whether they.
Have we discussed this yet?
I don't think we've discussed it on the podcast, but we've talked about it
I mean,
a lot since Menace Fate 1.
yeah, it was I think that was an evening like conundrum we came up with while we were waiting for some orders on what to do during the skirmish, but we'll touch on that later. Maybe that'll give people something to comment below on. But
Oh no, are
I
we becoming like YouTubers? Like, comment, subscribe.
we need a fan base name.
Oh,
What should our fans be called? Are there any fans of this podcast? Probably not.
well, yeah,
Um
I gave you the percentages. I didn't give you the raw numbers because
yeah, they're just listeners. We don't know if they're actually, staying for the whole thing.
yeah, I think when
But
it's
that's doing you an immense disservice. I'm sure they love your stuff.
I hope so, unless they're like listening to it out of hatred for themselves. Is this punishment?
Maybe,
Yeah, leave a comment below.
maybe.
Is this punishment? Yes or no? No context. Just not even the words yes or no, just a Y or a letter N. And
Yeah,
yeah, we'll see how many people are punishing themselves with the Shattersong LARP Diary commentary.
so we can make it worse from here.
We can make it a lot
Yeah,
worse.
we can. It's just
Almost
an hour
70
of
miles an hour
screaming.
in a Nissan Micra worse.
Micro.
Okay, sorry.
Um,
Back to your 7 points. I think we've had three. Let's round it up to four because you can give double points to like really good bits.
yeah, I mean, obviously, I'd say like does the food wangle its way into the camping category because
Yeah,
that was pretty
absolutely.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the catering that was supplied, brilliant. It was healthy, it was warm, it was felt really looked after. Then I kind of want to finish in with a couple holes, if that's okay, maybe like 3 holes. And that is the weather being one. The cold makes me quite moody. I react really badly to not much sleep. And the first night there was really cold, and I just couldn't get warm in the evenings. I've sort of fixed that setup with Empire this last weekend gone, but
Mm,
yeah, that was uncomfortable. Um, and there was just the kind of s- being away from like the magic. I guess I think I've really decided that I prefer icy camping over OC. Just because it feels like the immersion doesn't drop as much. And you can keep up with what's going on in camp a little bit more than trekking all the way out. Then my final one was the showers. So the showers were like usually when we've gone to Fest Larps, they've been quite warm, and even if it's only for 5 minutes, it's warm water and it feels like it's doing the job. But these were freezing, and they just made me feel really uncomfortable, and it wasn't great. It woke me up, so maybe it was a good start to the day, but I didn't feel like it was a good start when it came on and it was I don't even know minus like 4 degrees. It was horrible. So
yeah,
yeah,
they were cold.
I think that was 7. I might have gone over.
That's fine. Yeah, it's not a very strict scoring card system. As long as you talk about it for a bit, we don't get sued. That's the thing with the patented Shattersong LARP diaries review process is that we do get sued if we don't do it properly, but defining it in order for it to be proper or not is extremely difficult. So we're
Mm,
basically just hoping that the lawyers hear this and understand that we've done our best.
I hope so.
Yeah,
But then I don't think it's me getting sued. It's probably you, but
it is me.
I'll try and help you.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is me.
So-
Yeah, they're coming for my
Okay.
toes.
Do you want to? Oh, pavement in toes. That's interesting.
Yep,
Um, do
can be.
you want to give yours?
I
I
do.
guess.
I'd love to, as we
Okay.
just did. I don't want to get sued. I'm going to give it a 6. And I want to talk about the negative 4 points first.
Okay.
First things first, I think some people were really smart and they who were in skirmish crew, like both of us, and they set up by the woods where a lot of encounters happened. So all of their kit was there, and they were able to go to sleep easily up there, and they were able to change during the day, that kind of thing. If we forgot anything, literally anything, we had to walk all the way from the top of the hill straight back to the OC. Of course, we camped in the back corner of OC as far away as possible from the entrance to the actual IC area. So it was, I think, mathematically the longest walk on site. And that sucked because we had to do it quite a few times. The weather, I'm not too fussed about the cold at night because it was cold. It was like what, March?
Yeah, I don't know what the temperature was, but I just remember it being enough to catch, like, when you get like the pee wakes at like 2 o'clock in the morning
Oh,
when you don't
yes.
need to pee, but your body is like, we should go outside now. And you're like, no,
The things you do
please
need to pee.
no.
Whenever I totally know the pee wakes, the pee alarm clock,
Yeah.
and it's like you said, when it gets cold, the alarm clock likes to ring every couple of hours. And I suppose I'll put that as a negative, but I always have that camping if it's cold, so meh. Because the weather during the day was quite good, but it was windy as fuck, so you felt
Yeah, it was.
chilly. Then the second we did in the combat, we got too hot, and we got sunburned and cold all at the same time. But this was like, to be fair, this was only like 10% of the time. Most of it was actually when you're up in the woods, the wind isn't bad, and it was lovely and sunny, and it genuinely felt like a spring day rather than sort of, the tail end of winter, but it basically is. Um, the showers, I'm going to join you on that. The cold water showed up every single day. The hot water showed up, I think, on the penultimate day, I think the Sunday morning. They were reasonably warm, but my God,
Mm.
I think it was Saturday morning. It was just ice. It was just icy water. So the showers definitely need to have a better heating element for them. I think they had 4 in the OC area, and that seemed to do most people pretty well. But then again, maybe people wanted to get out quickly because they were freezing. So we'll see. But turn up the temperature, please, please, please.
Well, there became a
And
little bit of oh,
oh
no,
God,
sorry, I'll let you continue.
no,
Well, I
no,
was going to
go on.
say there came a little bit of a legend of how to get the showers to work because it seemed like 30% of people could get the hot water going, and the other 70 were sort of just left to freeze. And we'd ask people their secrets as they were coming out of the showers, and they would tell us things, but these things wouldn't work. So maybe only a select few are allowed the hot water. We just weren't trying enough as skirmish crew or something.
Yeah, that's the thing. So this is, dear listeners, why we killed a lot of your characters, is because you lied to us about the showers. And there's a great line from Generation Kill, a fantastic HBO show, where it's around U.S. Marines in the Iraq War. And anyway, the line is, Sergeant, if we didn't have the things, sorry, if we had the things we needed, we wouldn't be angry, and if we weren't angry, we wouldn't be ready to kill people all the time. And I think that having cold showers for the skirmish crew, the system is working as intended. If we didn't have the hills, we wouldn't be angry, so we wouldn't want to kill player characters. If it wasn't hot, cold, and it was change here, move here, quick, 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 go, 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 then we wouldn't be angry, and we wouldn't be ready to
Makes
kill
so much
player
sense now.
characters. So I think, despite the flaws we're gonna sort of talk about in this episode, I think there's a strong argument for them being intentional. But anyway, I digress. My final point was actually around the traders. So this is I know it's kind of not really camping, but whatever, it's part of the
We'll
campsite.
let it pass. Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
let it slide.
I got a fantastic, beautiful, gorgeous piece from Adam Skelly. However,
Did.
the only time we had to go and look around the traders was Thursday night, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I had a little bit of time on Sunday morning, I think, when I hurt my ankle, but that was only because I was out of action. But yeah, we got in, and I think it was one of the first things we did. Is
Yeah,
just go and check in with like, traders and things.
yeah, go and see what's on offer. Because now I've actually got a little bit of a shopping list and things like getting a a suit of aluminium chain. And you'd think when I've got literally 4 days, right, within a 50-meter radius of these traders, I'd have plenty of time to go and visit them. I
You
didn't,
were wrong.
and I could have done on
No.
my lunch break. I could have done X, Y, and Z, but I found both at Menhirs and at Empire this time as well for E1 in both systems. I just didn't go to the traders. I didn't have. I felt like I didn't have time to go for a nice shopping experience, and I'm kicking myself up the bum for that because I wanted to get like a new shield, the aforementioned chain, and stuff like that. And on top of that, the actual negative point for the camping is that it had this weird like fencing around it, and they kind of disguised it with Hessian, which is fine, it's absolutely fine. I think Hessian covered walls and LARP are basically walls. That's good enough.
Mm.
It's not offensive to the eye. But it felt really jarring to leave the main camp and then go to the traders, which were also next to the OC area, and it felt like a third camp.
There was a lot of
And
space now I think about it, like
yeah,
between those sections. Yeah.
yeah, it was a good 100-meter walk from the main camp, and I would. This is not really like a negative, but I guess it's like if I had my hat of ultimate control on, the thing we keep in the closet, we don't use because it leads to bad outcomes. But if I was to put it on and wave a magic wand that comes with it, I would integrate the traders with Haven itself because the Haven central hub, with all of the huge tents for the guilds and everything, and the actual men here, they're so cool. And if you had the traders around them as well, because they've got IC tents and everything like that, to have a bustling, beautiful marketplace, like a like IC/OC marketplace, in the middle of all the admin and stuff like that, with all the footfall that the traders might want, that's
Mm.
pretty cool. That's really cool. Um,
Yeah, it
there
makes
were
the town feel a bit more like a town then as well.
Yeah, exactly. And if I was, the point of this episode is to be picky, and if I was to be picky, I would have integrated them personally, purely so it was easier for me to shop. But this podcast is, we forgot the disclaimer. We are biased, ill-informed, and we're going to make lots of sweeping statements or something to the
Horrible
some.
people.
Yeah, and Amber is a horrible person. Yeah, you heard it here first.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, but I gave it a 6, and I think the things that were good about the camping is the OC area was actually lovely and spacious. It wasn't a crazy distance from the site, and it was like a field adjacent to the main field, so you didn't have to go like up through a huge one-way system to get back onto it. You could just basically walk for like 2 minutes, and you were there. You were on the field, which is nice. They had showers. I know they were cold, but they had them, so big thumbs up. I've been to plenty of sites where there are not showers, and by the end of the weekend, I am
Mm.
sweaty. I really enjoyed the hill for the first day, purely, and hear me out, purely because it really felt like you were going somewhere else. It wasn't like, oh, let's go behind this wall and you've teleported. Having a little walk genuinely puts you in the mood for like a fight or a bit of an adventure, carrying all
Yeah,
your
I don't
kit.
think it's I understand like why that decision was made because it is lovely walking up to there, but I just don't think what was factored in was how much people would have to walk up it, especially skirmish crew. Maybe it was like just an oversight. Um, because it was after the first day, I think we were like, we never want to touch this hill ever again.
Yeah. But that aside, another good point is our dear friend Lawrence, the hero of the day, went off and picked up a 4-person tent that we could put in the skirmish area. So we weren't allowed to park cars and sleep up there, I think, but we were allowed to put tents up and store kit there. So on the Friday night, Pete, another hero of the gang, took a van of kit up there, dropped it off, drove back down. So then we had an armory during the actual event, which was incredibly useful. and we could use it to store snacks and stuff like that. So that immeasurably improved the camping experience. And then finally, like you commented on with the OC camping, it was really nice just to sit in some chairs and just talk random shit with people, and you've got no qualms about the topics you discuss breaking immersion
Mm.
because you're not in a icy area. So that was really nice. And whilst it was cold, it's not the worst night's sleep I've had. So you know what, it was okay. So yeah, 6 out of 10 for camping. Few things I would have like swapped around to purely benefit me because I'm selfish. But otherwise, it was okay. You know, it was okay.
Yeah. Actually, I think another nice thing was that it was a mix of crew and players. So people who were players, but during timeout they were obviously not in character. They would tell us how the game was going, and because we were crew, we didn't really know what was happening sort of in game. We heard snippets here there, but it was nice to get their opinion, especially some of like the first time players. That was really sweet. It was nice to come back from like a day's work and see that it paid off, kind of thing.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's absolutely going to go into the OC section. I'm stealing that as a
Yeah,
point.
it's cute.
But I think I
You're
think I
welcome.
mentioned it in the first episode we did on this. But it was that person who came up to me, had a little chat, first time LARPing outside of university, and said he said he was so excited he probably wouldn't be able to go to sleep. And exactly how you just said, Amber, the feeling of a job well done, immeasurable.
Mm. It was lovely.
All right
I'm
then.
trying to think if there's. Sorry.
Well, you've given your answer, so you can't amend it now, I'm afraid.
Okay, it's like a lock in and then that's it.
It is a lock-in.
No
It's one of these.
flexibility.
It's the other end. It's the other side of this book-ended legal system we operate in. So if we try to change our answers later, we're actually tampering with evidence. So we would get sued again. So we got
And
to be
we don't
careful.
want that. Okay. Okay, this is like a timekeeping thing. Let's move on then. Where do we go next?
And we go to IC, and that's going to be difficult
Oh,
considering we didn't play a character for more than one evening. But based on the small exposure we've had to the IC side of things, what was your score?
this is quite hard to rank because I think what's happened is I've heard other people who were IC's opinions that might judge mine. So does that matter? Can I sort of add in other people's views?
Yeah.
No, I shouldn't do that. I'll
No,
keep
you
to
can do
myself.
it if you
Yeah.
want.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
oh, okay,
plagiarism is allowed.
okay,
Yeah, it's just copying.
great.
It's a form of flattery.
Um, it is. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna flatter all these lovely, wonderful players. I'm gonna give it a 8. I would say 8.5, but 8 out of 10.
Ooh,
Um,
strong.
strong. Yeah. So that's that rolls into things like the briefs. So I think the briefs are really easy as a player to come into and go, that's who I want to be, and they're very sort of read it, and then when it's in game, it feels very alive and it's very. I just translate very well off the wiki, so I enjoyed that.
Mm.
Um, I loved the sort of bar that we went to. We went to someone's bar in I think it's Morvalis
It
or
is the Crimson
Morvalis.
Rose, run by
The
Kirsty,
Crimson Rose.
who
Big
died
shout out.
alongside us at
Yeah,
Empire.
big shout out. There's just something magical about going to like in character bars. It's just like the buzz of everyone's there for a good time and they want to share their day. So we managed to sort of meet some of the terrible like looking clowns. They were freaky, but they were pretty cool. We had some wonderful spicy margaritas, and it was our time to like be in character, so we could ask a few questions about people's day, what they were getting up to. We caught up with our friend Ian, who was one of the guild masters. Um, I mean, you had a rap battle of some kind. That was fun to watch. Uh, that was, well, I'll let you have that point,
Yeah.
but it was great. Um, I just walking around the town, like getting the chance to go in and see the menhir and how the guilds were operating. Looked really cool. The like, I guess we were kind of in character for like the Fallen, so I'm gonna use that as a point. But like the cinematic fighting that comes with being a member of the Fallen, I think they're very well written bad guys. Um, hmm, well, I wish I had a chance to use the guilds as a player because I think they're a really fun setup. One thing I did hear though was that people struggled with. So like they joined like the Adventurers Guild, they'd be sent off on an adventure or to do some tasks, but they'd come back and like someone had already done the task, so it made their like time feel a bit redundant. So maybe that's something that needs working on a little bit. I heard as well that like some of the queuing for like banking at time in was quite long.
Yep.
So maybe jazzing that up somehow. I don't know, maybe putting on some kind of entertainment for people who are queuing or coming up with a system that doesn't require, that length of time. But I know it's their first event and you've got a lot of people to like make feel welcome. So that I'm sure that's something that'll get ironed over with time. Um, I really like what's it called now? The reason that everyone's forgotten everything. I think that's a really cool game mechanic. Um, just because if you aren't like us and we haven't spent a lot of time on field, you can just come in and say, "Oh, what's that? Like, I don't really understand what you're talking about. I must have forgotten about it." Is it called the fading?
Uh, yes, I think the fading
Something
was.
like that.
I should
Yeah,
know this because
that's
I've
just
read
cool.
the lore, but like the fading of the knowledge is getting harder and harder to hold on to, and as we can now talk about, the Void have been announced as the main
Mm,
bad guys for um, this upcoming event, and I guess I don't know for a fact, but I guess that they're linked to the fading a little bit because the Void is trying to like destroy all knowledge and be the end of everything, and it's a very
mm.
cool again. What Menhirs Fate does very, very well is introduce OC mechanics in an IC way. And the OC mechanic here is this is a brand new system. No one's going to know everything. And you can just blame the fading if you don't know something. Easy.
Yeah, I just I really like that. It just makes it easy for us to dip in and out of the game. I
If you
hmm.
hesitate for more than 15 seconds, you will be shot.
Well, bang. um, yeah, I think I might have reached 8. It's really hard to speak about IC when we haven't got to play the game. So I think I loved listening to people's stories about what they encountered in the camp. So like there was, velociraptors and there was a vampire and all these like the diversity of things that people got to interact with sounds really cool. But I wasn't there for it unfortunately, so I don't really think I can comment anymore. But
Okay,
maybe I'll think of a few things. But
fair
yeah,
enough.
sorry, bad answer.
That's not a bad answer. It's an 8 out of 10 from a limited data set. So,
Yeah,
yeah, we've had the cream on top. It was good. Didn't have time for the buttery biscuit base, but maybe E4. Who knows?
maybe 4.
E4. Right. It's me, isn't it?
It is you.
I see. So I suffer again from combat crewinitis, where I get to the end of the day and I'm absolutely exhausted and I can't role play my R&R character because I'm just a broken man. So I also have a very limited exposure to icy interactions in Haven, but I would like to give it a 9 out of 10.
Explain.
Yes, sir. Right. Um, First point is a rap battle. Some we ran into some four very drunk adventurers on the way back to our tent, I think, just as the night is ending, right? And I think I told my fireman joke, and then
You did.
we got it was if you can guess this riddle, I'll give you a saga. I think that's the lowest denomination because as combat crew we get given a little bit of money to go out and enjoy the bars, stimulate the economy, that kind of thing. We don't get to keep it. But the idea is just go out and enjoy the world a little bit. So some people go to bars, which is very sensible, and use it as intended, I guess. Some people will go and, uh, you know, make up a little mini quest like, I'm looking for a banana. Please help me find a banana, and I'll give you 5 sagas. I went around offering riddles. If someone could solve it, then they got paid. They really enjoyed the fireman joke, and I think it led directly onto that rap battle, and I can't for the life of me remember what actually happened. But for about 60 seconds, me and this other adventurer are just rhyming stuff that's happened during the day, I think. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
I think. Yeah, I mean, I think the margaritas, the spicy margaritas, might have tainted our memories a little bit, or it was the fading. But we, I'm pretty sure they walked past us. They might be from Hammerstad, and they were asking if we wanted to win some money, or we wanted to like have a battle, and you were like, actually, I've got a joke instead. they they guessed the joke, they got the punchline right, so you paid them. Did you pay them actually, or
I
did we
did pay him.
just
Yeah, they got it.
you did pay them? Nice. And then I think it was just, yeah, a very brief rap battle, and then we tipped our hats and we were on our way, but it was very fun.
Yeah, it was good spontaneous player interaction, very much like a Wild Wasteland interaction in Fallout New Vegas. For those of you who've played it, um, I'll give that 2 points because that was quite cool. We got to go to the Crimson Rose or the Crimson Moth. I think it's the Crimson Moth. So sorry, Kirsty. Please correct me if I'm wrong. In Morvalis, and we had the spicy margs. We go in, there's a menu, and there's like a few people serving. There's little snacks outside around a fire. We had benches and an awning. It was, I can, I'm Commander Fallen, and this is my favorite bar in Haven. Um, that is a reference to those of you who play Mass Effect. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Yeah, that was really cool, especially after a whole day of running around and fighting. Just having a good strong margarita and a sit down. Oh, that was good. That was
It's
that
lovely.
was really really good. So I'm going to give that 2 points, one for the margs, one for the effort. Um, the fist fight I got into with Tiki, where I have no idea what was happening, but I think Tiki stole
I don't
our
even
friend
think I saw
Tiki.
this.
His name is actually Henry, but we call him Tiki. Long story. Go listen to the rest of the podcast. You'll find out why. Um, like all what 200 episodes at this point. Anyway, the we- he's like, "Oh, do you want to take this outside?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's go outside." So I push him outside because I'm an Adrevan at this point for my R&R character. Got my war skirt on, got my robes on, got my little backpack, and I was really thirsty. And this damn Hammerstadt gangster has taken my myth coin, the silver one, quite valuable. So we go outside. As I push him, I immediately drop it. So it's dark. It's gone. It's
You'll
just
never
gone.
sing that again.
Yeah, I really hope Kirsty found that when she was packing up because they deserve it. But then we do a little bit of icy grappling, and of course this isn't real grappling. It's a bit like stage fighting, and you'd never do it on the battlefield. Do it with people you know and trust in a limited, safe way. And we just like pretended to throw a couple punches at each other. I think at one point, um, so he landed a punch on me, and I went to the floor, and he got on top of me, and then cinematically waited for me to like pretend to nut him, and then roll on top of him and get a couple slams in, and we were just killing each other in the street, and everyone else is they're not even gathered around watching. I think you guys are watching, but you're so tired you don't even care. It's just
We
this.
were not watching, but I wish we were.
Oh, even better then. Yeah, because
Yeah.
this is pretty much the start of the bar experience, and I can only imagine how weird it was for like event one. It's very much a PvE environment, and everyone is like working together, and then late at night, about 30 to 60 new players suddenly appear temporarily. Wonder where they could come from. And one of them has picked a fight with a local. They're beating each other outside the bar. But that was a wonderful experience, very fun. And of course, we swapped drinks afterwards and made best friends. Unfortunately, that Odreven chap got stuck in a bear trap on the way home, so you will probably not see him ever again. But I digress.
R.I.P.
Yeah, RIP. I'm going to give that another 2 points. That takes me to 6. The actual tent setups, so actually going to the Menhir at night, wicked. The fun people were having, and it wasn't like people were milling around waiting for skirmishes to go out. The actual vibe in Haven was really, really good. So I think there were some bards going around. People are, very merry. Lots of bars are open. The camps are quite well lit as well. Some people have clearly gone to bed. That's fine. There's some like quieter areas, but around the main hub, it was bustling, and it really felt like a small town, but still a town. It wasn't just random clumps of people drinking because they're bored. There was still excitement. It felt there was still something happening. So yeah, really good score for the IC interactions. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I think I'm going to deduct 2 points because we didn't get to spend much time IC, and that's it. Done, I think. Very hard to critique something we haven't taken too much of. But otherwise, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a solid experience.
OC. OC is a big one
OC.
actually for us because I guess that I'd say the actual combat for us as skirmish crew. Obviously, we've got a lot to talk about in combat, but the OC stuff, I guess, is the organization, the logistics, the I guess some of the food during the day and stuff like that, and our overall experience of combat crew, I guess. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, this is another one that's probably going to be hard to rank 'cause it encompasses so much. I I think I'm going to give this one a 6. I said in the last podcast how much fun we had, but this is obviously where we go a bit more nitty-gritty with
Yeah.
the things that, and I'm going to keep in mind that this is their first LARP, and they did a fantastic job of actually getting it off the ground, much less bumpy than we thought going in. So, take all of this with a grain of salt. Um, I think my first thing is what I've noticed since the event is that there's a huge push for more crew and more people to come in and help with the OC side of the game, which is obviously what you need if you're going to scale the event and to keep players interested, keep skirmish crew healthy and well rested. You need to have that amount of people to support your network. Um, but there's a lot of sections that are actually quite hard to get into if you're not on things like Discord or you don't already have a um, someone in the game or on crew that you don't know. So for me, I think they've done an excellent job at marketing the event and using their sort of online network to get people to come along, but they haven't put as much into a call out for crew until very recently. And I worry that that might be something that creeps back in the future. Very recently, there was a call out for plot writers, and I love writing. I love, writing plays and things. I was very happy to throw my hat in the ring and say I'd love to get involved. And all that kind of really happened was that I had a tag on Discord change to like writer and nothing else. So, and maybe I've missed a com somewhere, but for me, I was like, okay, actually, I would love to get involved, but I have no idea what's going on. Um, and I just can't contribute to the game in that way. So I think maybe something to help with their push for support on the OC side
Yeah, because
might benefit them.
we can't talk about the specifics, but
Mm.
we've anything that's on the announcement page on the main Discord, I'm going to assume we can talk about. If I'm wrong,
Yeah,
director send me a message. But I mean, there's lots of really positive things here from after E1. The actual you talked about the Bankers Guild, that is actually addressed there,
yeah,
but I don't think we can talk numbers. But go on.
yeah, with you. Um, and I have, sort of linking to the guild stuff. I have heard that a lot of the things that we raised in the last podcast about, skirmish crew bases being located at length and things, those have been addressed. So, it is nice to have a team that's listening to feedback and are actively pushing for feedback. That's really promising. Um, what else I have
Yeah,
about
I was I
OC?
was going to talk. I was going to agree with you on the writer's side.
Mm,
Is whilst I love the altruism. Is that the right word for
yeah,
anyone can
I think
step in
so.
and write plots? I think that's going to stop working very well very quickly because if even you've got directors who are approving plot, I think there's broadly three tiers of how like you've got major plot, medium plot, minor plot, something analogous to that, and just getting all of that signed off and ready to go for E1, from what I've heard, was they got it done. It happened, right? There's always going to be things that get left on the cutting room floor, but they got it going.
Hmm.
But they didn't have the previous events to consider as well. So the actual amount of information that these directors are going to have to process to slot plot into their world is going to become exponential as we go through
It's
events,
immense.
and
Yeah.
that's going to
And as
get
they rack
really
up more
difficult.
players,
Yeah, and more writers who bring in different ideas. Will that keep it fresh or will it keep it confusing? We'll have to see.
exactly. Yeah, and maybe they've got a great, methodology in place because so far it's looked very smooth. But I worry that maybe it'll get to like a too many cooks spoil the broth situation, or that it will just like they'll need to cap how much actually happens in game somehow. But I don't know how. Um, moving on, I think one of the big things that when I went to some other fest LARPs, that stood out was like the inclusion for families. And with Empire, you've got things like the Academy, and you've got ways to start just to help sort of parents that are bringing kids along to the event. And I think that's really important, especially if you want it to be a family hobby. Menez is very welcoming. It's very, it's a fantastical world, so obviously it's going to, stand out for kids and things. But I didn't see an awful much, like a big amount of things to help parents or to encourage family sign-ups. And maybe that's just because it was their first event and it's a lot of pressure to bring kids
This
and,
was on
young adults.
absolutely. This was on my notes actually to talk about as well
Okay, cool.
because I went to like an SCP based LARP just before
Mm,
Menhirs, and it's called so Equinox Institute. Fantastic LARP, well worth it. Different episode. But someone there actually was like, "Oh, I've listened to the podcast. Blah blah blah. You
nice.
seem really keen on Men's Fate," and I was like, "Really? Am I?" Injecting more plot into my veins directly in front of this particular person. Anyway, they pointed out that people can't come because they have to pay for their children to come. That
Oh,
turns
okay.
what would otherwise be a much cheaper weekend at, say, Empire, for example, with the Academy included, because I think it's free for kids at Empire.
Mm,
Translating that over to Men's Fate, where suddenly it's an extra 120 quid for a couple of kids, right?
yeah,
However,
it tops up.
however, it did crop up, and I don't think that was. I think that might have been the case for E1. Not sure. However, I've just Googled event tickets. There are now children's tickets for free on the website.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, cool. So completely disregard the last 10 minutes of me rambling.
Yeah, no,
Well
because no,
done,
it
well
was
done.
correct. E1 was correct, but I think
Yeah.
on your point of they're listening and improving, this is really good, immediate evidence of that feedback being listened to. It does have lorem ipsum on this part of the website, but it does have
Really?
yeah, it does have children's tickets. Event adult tickets range from 60 to £110, and if you that's the camping. No, hang on. So if
Just
I'm
out of curiosity, while you're there, do they also have things for like carer tickets and things like that? I know
exactly
that's
what I was
sort of
looking
cropped
at,
up in.
there's youth
Oh
tickets,
wow, look at
general
us go.
admission, and concession tickets. So
Okay.
if I need accessibility, if I have accessibility requirements and I'm a youth, then I'm 60 quid. If I need accessibility and I have a concession, it's 80. And if I'm accessibility but I don't have any concessions or youth, then it's 100. And if I don't have accessibility issues, it's still 100. Oh, the
Mm.
£10 of the 110 is for Thursday camping. So that makes sense. But yeah, that feels
Okay.
like a nice fair sliding scale. Pretty in line
Yeah.
with other UK LARPs, right?
Yeah, and I think the quality you get sort of matches those prices. So, I
Yeah,
was
the
going to
amount of
ask you actually,
SFX.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, sign me up. I was going to ask how accessible did you, I mean, we're both sort of, we don't really have a large requirement for accessibility needs, but how did you find the site in terms of accessibility? Because for me, it felt very well planned. Like there was a lot of services, but the hill I think might have been an issue. The sort of the
Yeah.
terrain and how we found going up and down. That might be my only qualm there, but
Yeah, so I think even with the hill included, compared to Dadford Road, it is more accessible because this is one big, pretty much flat field. It's got a bit of a roll to it, but it's very minor, so it doesn't feel like a Minecraft flat plane. It's nice. It feels cool. I guess there's like a slight sort of if you go to the center of it, it's a bit like a bowl. It's a little bit higher at the edges, but
Mm.
like one or two, like 1 meter of elevation, maybe two, across a couple hundred meters. It's fine. Um, the hill itself, yeah, it's not too bad. It's got a nice path to it. It's made with there's like a concrete and dirt road. So if I imagine my brother, for example, using his mobility scooter, could probably handle that hill. Whereas you
Okay.
look at Dadford Road, a lot of it is made of wood chips that get absolutely torn up to shit by cars and other wheels. The infrastructure on the site is quite good, and of course the main field is grass. So running over that in a flat way is pretty easy. So I'd say it's pretty accessible. The
Yeah.
distances, like let's say I want to go to the traders area from the middle of Haven. Yeah, it's like a 3 or 4 minute walk if you're, using a stick, for example. Um, but I think it's a lot easier than going from, let's say, the Marchers to Dawn, because you've got a lot less
Yeah.
incline to deal with, and you haven't got to really zigzag over lots of different tents because of the pizza slice layout of Haven itself. There's roads at like all the spokes of a wheel, so you just find a road and it'll take you straight to the edge of camp, which is pretty cool.
Nice. I mean, it'd be good to hear if anyone, did run into any issues, what they were, and if how they found the site, because we didn't spend a lot of time in the center of Haven. The other thing that I was going to mention is this is a sort of qualm that I had. I love the word qualm. We're really using it, but it's one that I had also with Empire, and that's the sort of visibility of like the time in sessions. So sort of the introduction to archery, introduction to combat, things like that. So we were walking around doing the weapons check, and people were asking us, "Do you know where this is? Do you know where this is?" And we weren't very well briefed on those. That might have just been our own sort of negligence, but maybe having that included in an email, maybe it was. But I think that's just another extra layer for feeling welcomed and knowing what's going on when you get there. Because if you're a first time LARPer, you might have like just no idea. So having that sort of a bit more signposted or just on sort of email when it's with your ticket could be cool. If it was there, then I take it back.
Yeah, because
Um,
I think just the two of us, we met 10, 15 archers,
yeah.
and I don't think I saw more than five on the battlefield over the weekend. Now, of course, you've got different nations taking the field at different times, but I'm thinking about the big battles, where pretty much
Mm,
everyone is on. And I remember our friend Matty is on the Us Again podcast. Go and give them a listen. But Matty was running the actual archery checks, and I only saw sort of dribs and drabs of people actually going over to it in ones and twos and stuff like that. So I do think that it's possible that some of the archers who brought their kit missed out on the briefing, didn't know where to catch up later and play catch up, so they just decided not to use their bows for the weekend, which is a bit of a shame for
yeah.
them if that is the case, because you've got to bring a whole quiver of arrows, a bow, make that investment in all the kit and everything. Feels bad.
Yeah, and it's an easy fix, so maybe it's something that they're, going to do, or even if those sessions, archery is cool, so maybe it's something that could be continued. I see over the weekend, like, oh look, we have like an in-character archery session at this time, for people, who maybe didn't make it on the Thursday, sort of Friday time in, or but that's more work for the organizers, so keep quiet. Um, I I'm struggling to think of any more. I feel like I probably should have prepped a bit more for this episode, but um, that's
Just
all
make
I've got
something
so far.
up. Just we're biased and we're poorly informed. Just fake
Yeah,
news it. Just say something that isn't true, and then just double down when someone disagrees.
can't believe there wasn't real magic.
Yeah, very
Fascinating.
disappointed by the lack of actual pyrotechnics because we had smoke and
Yeah,
everything, but where was the fire?
that was the arson.
Where was the arson? Yeah, I
The
think
arson.
if MF2, if you could burn down parts of Haven, that would really help with my immersion.
Just set fire to Hammerstad.
Yeah,
Burn it down.
yeah, I want to get all of their money, throw it on a
No one
bonfire,
likes them.
and just melt it into a cube.
I'm trying to think of which nation would be the sort of pyromaniacs of Haven.
Hmm.
Probably the Adventurers Guild. Not even it's not even a nation, but I can imagine them getting a bit like I don't know, just what does this do? And then
Yeah.
Ian's like face is like black with smoke. Like Just sort of.
Uh, yeah, I was trying to make I don't know, blasting powder or something, whatever. Not sure if that's in this
Mm,
setting. Don't think it is. But if anyone would mess around with explosives, it would be Ian. In a good way. We
it would
love you,
be
Ian. Yeah, I can imagine. Like if Ian in the Adventurers Guild is like, "Hello everyone, hello friends. What is this device?" And it's just ticking. I would need an adventurer to take this as far away as possible from Haven.
got a quest. You have to cut a wire in 6 seconds.
Yeah,
Which wire?
pick a color. Oh, that would be cool. If you're writing plot, can you do bomb plot? But like it's you've got to get mana crystals and then you've got to pull the right mana crystal out of this infernal device, otherwise it explodes. It's literally
Yeah.
just like SAS Rogue Heroes, but in Menhirs Fate.
I mean, Cyrodinia is a mining nation, so if they don't have sort of underground detonations, they're doing it wrong.
Yeah, maybe we should go and have a word with them. They've got the whole
Yeah.
like, cool black outfits, but do they have explosives?
Hmm. I don't think so. But we can give them see what they do with them.
Yeah. All right then. So
Yeah,
does that round out your OC scoring?
yeah, I guess. Yeah, I think so.
Think so. Cool.
Yeah.
Hmm. So I'm thinking very hard about my number because on one hand I was going to say 7, but I thought no, we promised everyone like a salty episode. But I'm actually reading the announcements on the main Discord at the moment, and a lot of the things I was going to bitch about have actually been addressed. Um,
Yeah, this is what I'm running into.
yeah,
I'm also really salty anyway
bastard.
because I can't. I'm a bit salty because I can't actually make E2. So all these things that I'm saying, it's just coming from a place of I'm not going to be there, so it's going to make it sound really bad so other people don't go as well, and I'm not missing out. It's just a FOMO thing.
Just like, yeah, don't go. I'm not going to be there.
Don't go. It's
Yeah,
dreadful.
if Amber's not there, then is it even worth living anymore?
Exactly.
Yeah, so on the other hand, I was going to think of something spicy like, do I give it a 3? But that's just not fair. I would really struggle to think of 7 things that were bad, you know. So I'm going to give it a 6. Um, Partly because a lot of the things I was going to bitch and moan about, like skirmish crew, they're trying to address. We can't talk numbers and things like that, but we can talk about what's in the main Discord. And we started to deplete the skirmish team quite rapidly, E1. So to address that, we're recruiting more people for E2. And this is not a sponsored section, but if you've got to 52 minutes, you're definitely interested, right? Come and, if you're on the fence, come and skirmish with me. Amber won't be there, so I do need a sidekick. And I, I can wholeheartedly say, especially after a weekend of Empire, right? The Menhirs Fate combat system is the best combat system that I've played in 10 years of LARP because it does away with all of this tap taps, point scoring shit. The player base massively helps it, but the mechanics support those players. And the amount of like heroic, cool combat you will get. There's no incentive to tap someone on the knuckles or on the shins and stuff like that. You're going for big, cool swings. Oh man, I would go down a rabbit hole really discussing it, but we are still pushing for skirmish team. You get a free ticket, you get a lot of food, you get snacks, you get breaks, you get to hang out with us, you get to see all the cool stuff going on behind the scenes, and just occasionally you get to go against the game boss, which is of course Neep Neep. And if Neep Neep comes for you, it's over. But being on the receiving end of Neep Neep was much more fun than watching Neep
Honor.
Neep kill skirmish crew. But I digress. So a 6. Negative points. Radio comms bad. I'll leave it there. There's a lot of confusion about who was meant to be where, and this led to lots of going up and down the hill. Talked about it. Very, very strong negative. I understand it's been addressed. I'll leave it there. If it's not, you will be hearing me from the After FM2 event for sure. Another negative on the OC side. Um, this is the thing. I'm struggling to actually properly prop it up because I've already talked about the showers.
Yeah, it
Um,
feels like a bit of a nitpicking episode where, we've come away and we've just had uh, Empire, but we want to get, more Menhirs content, but we don't want to like it. We just had so much fun at Menhirs that it's hard to critique it, I think.
Yeah, I've got one though. I've got one.
Oh,
And
okay.
this is actually
I
this
will
is
shut up.
for my first shit on the players. So, dear players, you are actually really cool, and I prefer you. Full stop. However, the amount of players on the first couple of days who saw us coming in for camp attacks, we put our hands up and moved to a different area, and they would just follow
Yes.
us. That was I know it was dark, and I would probably do the same thing in your shoes when I was new because I wouldn't understand what the whole hand in the air thing, or just you find a reason to go back to your tent that is conveniently on the other side of camp, which is conveniently where you think they're going. Whatever. As skirmish crew, it really sucked because we were like, right, we're gonna get killed if we, because there's like four of us, or at least we're outnumbered 4-1. That's more realistic. And our element of surprise is the only thing carrying this fight. And to make the actual camp raids feel dangerous and scary, we're gonna have to like rush in, and then you kind of like find pockets of us in the camp. And there's like some street fights. That didn't happen. Fair enough, but it was a little bit annoying to see the players following us around. From what I understand very loosely, is the camp attacks are a CP, Curious Pastimes thing, and they're very Marmite. I thought that Menhirs had a really good middle ground approach of if you're on the outer half of your camp, like towards the edge of the circle,
Mm.
you can be targeted, and if you're on the inner half, you can't. I think they're addressing that. I don't think I can talk about details, so I won't. But I think that's going to change a little bit for the better or for the worse. Of course, we'll have to wait and see what actually hits the field. But yeah, some players were like in nations like the Wonder, where there was a very small amount of players. What is and isn't the outside of camp? Is it per camp? Is there just a set radius where you're safe? What happens when that camp gets bigger? What happens if most of the nation is non-com? So we didn't have those questions at M1, but I'm pretty sure that they'll be on the director's desk come M4, M5, M6 for when the player base starts to really build up.
Yeah.
Final OC thing. The thing is, I'm going to give it a negative, but I actually found this to be a massive positive. But I know for a fact that this is going to end up being a negative soon. Was the amount of people doing the physical looting. So I really like my like hard LARPs, hard skill. It's reality. Something like Bastion, for example. If you can't outrun the zombies, you get fucking killed. Game over, right? We had a bit of a hilarious moment where someone came up to me and they're like, "Are you okay being looted?" And I said yes because I understood that they meant like physical touching. But they this player clearly knew, really went for it, and they went to my pocket and they accidentally pulled my trousers down on the
Oh,
floor.
really? I
Yeah,
didn't know that happened.
so I had these like lycra blue pants on, very non-icy underwear, right? Because we should all be wearing loincloths, of course. But just suddenly on the battlefield, I'm like, oh, watch out! Pull it back up. Player was very embarrassed. It was very funny. It wasn't done with any malice, and it was quite clearly an accident.
That's not a saga. Stop.
Is that a roll of sagas, or are you happy to see me? And, oh, it's a knife. But I knowing the players in LARP though, and especially some of the reactions I've had to looting at Empire, where it has oscillated from, yeah, cool, let's do some role play, to being screamed at for my knee accidentally touching their toes. Um, I can imagine that as Menhirs Fate gets more popular, we're going to get those kind of players into the system. And then what's been really well established right now with Menhirs Fate, where it's like it's a good, honest LARPy system. You're there to have fun. It's all done in good faith. It's cinematic. It's cool. It's just like a big iLARP event. For those of you who haven't been, iLARP are like, I would say, the S tier of UK LARPing. However, that does rely on goodwill between your participants. Of course, there is boundaries, and those are well respected, and there are, of course, rules for protecting them as well. But sometimes mistakes happen, like this pants thing, and I can just imagine a wrong type of player getting very upset about it and it kind of ruining their weekend. And how is that going to be addressed? Is the player base going to grow? Sort of, it's like Emperor at the moment's got this weird, like, you cannot touch anyone under any circumstance,
Mm.
even if they give you permission to do so. And it's kind of killed that part of the game for me because I've never gone in someone's pocket or anything, but I like, I'll like tap their armor and say, oh, this is nice, or they've got some nice shoes, or oh, let's see if we can jimmy this pouch open or something like that. It just adds to the realism versus you're on your knees just hovering your hands over their chest, kind of like a healing spell for 30 seconds for them to hand you a couple cards. I think there needs to be a healthy mid ground to maintain the immersion that I would like to see at Menhirs. How that's
Yeah,
going to work
I
out,
think
I don't know.
I'm on the same page as you. As I want it to be as realistic as possible. I think a lot of it boils down to communication because if you're coming into these games, you need to understand that there are new players who are going to make mistakes and accidents do happen. So if your crew, if your player and someone does accidentally overstep either a rule or a personal boundary, just make sure you communicate it really clearly. If they don't listen or they don't adjust their behavior, that's when you escalate and that's when you can, call a ref, step away from the situation. um, and I think Menez does a good job of as soon as you sort of time in, you know where the refs are, you know where support is. I didn't have anyone physically touch me when they were looting, which is pretty good, but I did hear there were a few instances. So I think if it's called out early by the team, um, and you do have players coming in who are aware of those rules, hopefully it just filters out and it's not a problem. Um,
Yeah, and for those instances you heard about, is that a player saying, oh yeah, they touched me, but I was chill? Or were the instances of I was someone, stuck their hand in my pocket and I wasn't comfortable?
it was all they were all chill about it. It wasn't to the, like they weren't putting their hands in the pockets or anything. It was more they were just sort of readjusting clothing or like there was like a bag or like a weapon that they went to go for or something. And it was all our friendship group are very chill and very
Mm.
laid back and I think we'd never really have a problem with someone going in our pocket if to take like a saga out or something like that. But those rules are in place to stop, to help people who aren't comfortable with physical contact. And it's absolutely fine to not be okay with people, strangers, basically, touching your legs in your pockets. That's absolutely fine. Um, but yeah, the complaints I heard were from our group who don't really have a problem with it.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're barely even complaints. It's comments because it's different to what we're used to, right?
yeah,
And what I did
exactly.
is, I mean, you helped me loads. Is on the side a cloak on and a breastplate with a belt round it to kind of tie it to my midriff, and I was hiding lollipops in the back of my belt. So when players finished looting me, I'd say, "Oh, roll me over and you'll find something," and they'd roll me over, and of course it's just a cloak. But then if they actually lifted up the cloak, which is fine because I've got clothes on underneath, because it billows in the wind regardless, they'd find a lollipop. And the amount of joy, like secondhand joy I got from that, they were like, "Oh my god, look what this one's got!" Thunk thunk thunk, 3 lollipops gone, and they were like, "Thank you," and that was so cool. That was really
You've
cool
just
to do and experience.
you've just made yourself a target from now on because they're going to see like the lollipop man from the Lollipop Guild, and they're going to chase you with sticks.
I I think if you want to take some OC feedback, Mendes Fate team, issue sweets to the skirmish crew, not just in the OC areas, but actually on skirmishes, because looting someone in a combat scenario is terrifying and exhilarating as hell, and not everyone can get loot. But getting a little lollipop, what a day. But then I guess you could argue it's
my
also immersion ruining, but you
my
don't have to
favorite
take the lollipop.
you have to, yeah. I mean, sweets from strangers in a forest is a little dubious, but my favorite loot story is one I overheard when I was getting my leg sort of strapped up by the ambulance lady on the final battle,
Mm.
where someone had found do you know where with skirmish crew sometimes we just sort of have artifacts on us that give the characters a bit more depth. So we might handwrite letters from uh like mothers or things. So when people loot us, we give it to them so they feel bad
Yep.
for killing us. So people would, understandably doing that because it's fun and it's fun to fuck with the players. But someone had like a weird like necklace, like, a pound sort of amulet thing, and they gave it to one of the players who'd looted them. and they all the players started freaking out, thinking they'd found something really, really important to like the battle objective. So they like run down the field. They just kind of quit the battle because they think they found something. And the player gets up and like the crew member comes over and sort of is chatting to their friends, but I overhear them say like nothing, absolutely nothing. And these poor players ran off like to just carry on their little adventure. It was really funny. He was so impressed with himself. I was like, round of applause.
But you,
That's how we get them off the battlefield.
yeah, I mean, first of all, that's a Genghis Khan level strategy. Love it.
Yep.
If everyone thinks they've won, then everyone gets to go home a winner, right? Especially
Mhm.
us, holding control of the men here in the woods that they never got to. But
Several
uh,
lollipops.
yeah, because I can imagine in certain other systems, with certain other players, not naming any names, there would be like the players like, oh, that's ridiculous. Oh no, the crews lied to us, and it's ruined our weekend because we
Mm,
got a fake objective. Like you just got had, or you assumed
yeah,
something that there was no evidence for. Just you can't win everything. You can't be the main character all the time. You can't have bespoke engagements built for you all the time at a fest LARP. You just there isn't that amount of focus on you as an individual, and it's impossible to do so. If you want that, go to a little parlor LARP of like 10 to 50 people, right? I really hope that Menhirs can maintain that kind of light-hearted attitude, and it sounds like that player, despite being told there was nothing, had a good time, right?
yeah.
So
It
I would,
gave them something to talk to their
sorry,
friends about, but
yeah,
um,
exactly. Like, I would argue that's a good interaction for a player, better than being given, oh, you find nothing. Like, okay,
mm,
cool. Well, that was a waste of time. Great.
yeah. And there are things in game to help you, record your achievements. So like the beastery, I think is what it's called. It's like things you discover on like in game you can contribute to. So as a player you do feel like you're contributing and you are like the main character of your own little story, but because it's a PvE system instead of a PvP one, it's much easier to feel like a hero, I think. And like your little band can go out and achieve something and come away on the weekend feeling like a sense of fulfillment without sort of the the popularity contest that sometimes happen in those situations, or the upping other players because they've done something that you wanted to do. Menace does a good job of actually making everyone feel like they're going to get a good story out of the weekend, no matter what they're going to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and maybe this will come from, again, surprise, surprise, taken from Empire. Empire is a PvP LARP, and the problem they've run into, and I'd argue after this weekend, which I'm salty about, run aground on, is that the player base is not being briefed on that, and that it's not setting the right expectations. And not to be dramatic, but I think it's killing the game. It's killing the game that was originally intended because people are not ready for that PvP interaction. They don't want it, or when they do want to do it, they want to do it to other people. But when it comes back on them, they're not mature enough, and I will say mature. They're not mature enough to actually take it. Of course, not naming any names, but I'd say it's a decent chunk of the player base. Very different here with Menhirs, where it is versus the environment, and even as combat crew, when people accidentally get the rules wrong and stuff like that, it hasn't killed the vibe. And when I get
Yeah,
killed by players, one player was using Smite on me, and at the time I was very annoyed because it immediately killed me, and I had to now walk to respawn with my heavy armor on and my helmet. However, on reflection, once I've calmed down, that player is just using the mechanics as intended. Smites are difficult to get off, and the whole point of them is to smite a big bad guy, which is exactly what I was. So I was on the receiving end of it. It worked as intended. Big thumbs up. It didn't feel bad on reflection. And I just really hope that Menhirs can maintain this
me too.
beautiful first event vibe going forwards. People don't resort to tappy tappy combat. People fight in the spirit of the game. People aren't afraid to lose their fucking characters. People don't need to feel the need to cheat. Spoiler for the episode we're going to record for Empire, but the amount of the E1, the amount of calls not being taken. Sorry, Empire E1, just to be really clear, when we were monstering on a Sunday was ridiculous. It was like the whole rule system had gone out the window. There's all this stuff about head hits. It's half people do it, half people don't do it. Use a helmet, don't use a helmet. It just feels like they've lost control of it, and they're just trying to like They're trying to direct a river with blasting charges rather than actually digging out a new system. But we
Yeah.
haven't got that problem here at Lovely Menhirs, and I just really hope that they can maintain it. I don't think I've got a coherent point to make on this, but this was my 6 out of 10 on the OC. Is that I'm really loving what they're doing. They've clearly adapted to things like we need more skirmish crew, we need to address the queue at the bank. They've done some really small downtime comments, which are really cool. I prefer this to the huge amounts of Wind of Fortunes we get. They've done some rules clarifications. They've taken feedback on events information sharing, so they're now starting to put up like site rules and regulations on the website, maps on the website, more maps in Haven as well. Comms and times management. I really hope they give all the refs a crash course in radio comms because that would help them a lot. And things like accessibility, the trading area. Oh, here we go. The trading area is being shifted closer to the game area, and the majority of the wall will
Ah,
likely be
there we go.
removed. There we go. See, this isn't so hard. See, they're just listening. They're just listening, and I really want this to keep going because I really want to spend loads of money on their tickets, and I really want them to be a success.
Yeah,
Rant
they
over.
deserve it at this point. They've proven, I think, with this first event and the behavior towards like feedback since they're a worthwhile company to get behind, and I think they're very refreshing on the LARP scene. It's I found it really hard to criticize them. I think it's quite telling that after 10 years of LARP, you're only finding like small gripes with them. And I'm sure that over time, other sort of things will come out. Of like the system that need to be tweaked and things, but it's good to know that we've got a group of people who are willing to actually listen and take on feedback. It's cool.
Yeah, and I think I might have actually got a coherent point. Is
Okay.
first of all, I don't want this LARP to go wet. I just would that's the headline. Please don't go wet. Like wet
Weather
blankets.
included.
Yeah. And then the the second point was going to be I hope they don't feel the pressure to accommodate for the I was going to say lowest common denominator. I don't think that's the right language to use. I don't think that's fair. But like watering things down so much that everyone can have fun regardless, but by in doing so limit the peaks. So things like the accidents with looting and stuff like that, or
Mm.
non-coms in Haven where inherently there's going to be camp raids and we can, as combat crew we're going to do our best, right? But it might be
Yeah.
dark. We might have helmets on. We don't know if you're a com or you're non-com. Maybe you're at the wrong place at the wrong time, and just like setting realistic understandings that we can never promise you won't be hit in the head because accidents happen. We can never promise that you won't be touched while being looted because again accidents happen. We can never promise that as a non-com you will always be able to avoid combat scenarios because they can't. And for all three of those examples, you can do things like raising your hand to go out of character. You can surrender. There's always mechanics you can do, and I really hope that the player base takes those on board and remembers those. It's not a case of I'm a non-com, so I should never be in combat. It should be I'm a non-com, and if I am to end up in combat, I want to have a really good toolkit of of mechanisms that I can use to get myself out of combat to ensure that I minimize the risk of being hit in combat. I minimize the risk of head hits or whatever it is, and I really hope we don't. To achieve that, we can maintain this beautiful community, maintain this spirit of the game that's been so strong at E1, and not have to resort to loads and loads and loads of Facebook posts with different rules and layers of rules that people will / won't read. And then it ends up as a big grey mush of do I LARP here or is this more of a combat sport? What's the vibe?
Yeah.
Rant over. I tried to God damn it. I tried to make my point succinct and I did not. But hopefully, dear listeners, you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And based on that as well, I think it's important for us as, customers, crew, players to also be quite respectful in the way that we feedback these issues to the directors and things, because I think sometimes with LARP and with lighthearted games, it's really easy for people to forget that it's being run by people who love the hobby and who love who want to make this event as fun and as safe and as inclusive for people. But they're also human and they've got feelings. So I think if you have an issue with how anything is run, or you've felt that something in the game doesn't work for your needs, just to raise it in a respectful way, and it'll get fixed. It will get addressed, as we've seen already with some of the things.
Yeah, and even if they don't address it, accept that they can't build a whole game around you. They're
Mm.
taking the average of their customers and what do most people want? All right, we'll do it. I distinctly remember what's the best way to anonymize this comment? On Facebook, there we go. There were accusations of Menhirs Fate being ableist before E1 had even begun, and I just don't see any evidence of that having now played the event. So
Yeah.
it's nice to see like a lot of the salt and the suspicion that Menhirs was getting pre-event has just evaporated, and I really hope Menhirs team take that to heart and actually keep doing what they're doing with confidence. And there's going to be people like us, perhaps in this podcast, trying to find ways to shit on them. Admittedly, we're really struggling, but there will be other people who are a bit more vehement about it, right? And
Mhm.
ignore them. It's one customer. It's one person's opinion. Ignore them. I feel like Empire has perhaps been a little bit of a victim to trying to pander to everyone's requests when some of them are inherently opposed, right? So in the end, everybody loses. But if Menhirs keeps forging ahead with the vision they want to create, it looks pretty damn good. Then that's going to please a lot of people. And hey, you might find that okay, sure, I don't like facet A or B of this system, but from C to Z, it's pretty damn good. And you know what? Overall, I'm having a great time. Play the game. Just play the game.
Yeah, exactly. And if there's elements of the game that you're not going to enjoy, there's so much to go, like so much going on that you can go and do instead. Um, and it's just like, if this LARP isn't for you, then there's one out there that is. There's so many going on now, and I think Menes is probably going to be the first of a whole new host that'll pop onto the market in the next few years, just because how quick the hobby's growing. Um, give it some time, poke around. There's some great one shots coming. Up. My eyes have been opened this last year, so yeah, there's loads out there.
Mm. And final point in OC before we jump onto combat. Excuse me, that was a belch. I really hope that wasn't in HD in all of your ears. Um, a new guild has emerged, the Crafting Guild.
Oh, I've missed this one.
Yeah, so this was announced today. So we've got listed traders, so we've got a really good list of them actually. There's within Gems Trading Company there is a for hire makeup artist. That's pretty damn
That's
cool.
cool.
Um, Same ones food wise from Menhirs Fate 1, which is pretty cool. We had one that had a restaurant area made out of pallet, like wooden pallet furniture. Did you see that in the traders area?
I did. I was one of their many customers.
Yeah, that was cool. Nice to see them again. So the new guild is for crafting. So all of the exciting
Fun.
things that you can make using the apothecary and enchanting skills. Join the guild for a small IC fee and gain access to a variety of exciting guild member exclusive perks, such as Flickr and Essence exchanges, guild quests, and a chance to help your guild masters craft legendary items. Note that you do not need to join the guild to use apothecary and the enchanting NPCs. This is just like an optional extra, basically. Um, oh, even better. So while the crafters are now an official guild, they have not yet officially accepted or officially been accepted into the pact. So it's up to you as players to help them build a reputation and impress the other guilds. We cannot wait to see what you create. Is Amber, is this
Cool.
player agency?
What's that?
What the fuck is this? This isn't on rails. This is this is an actual decision.
What do they think they're doing? Letting players decide something?
Oh, this could only go wrong. Who would have thought that players wanted some agency in their role-playing game?
Do you think we can get the Apothecary Crafting Guild to make some dynamite? Is this our
Maybe.
way in?
Maybe we go around selling like discounted memberships to the guild that aren't real. Yeah, or we just make the apothecary guild, but it's spelled with an F instead of a TH, and then see if people notice, and we start to like make loads of illicit drugs.
like the Avon reps of the drug industry in
Yes. Oh, selling.
Menhirs. We
Let's
just
just sell
leave little
Avon.
catalogs outside people's. It's just sell Avon.
Do we call it Havon for selling in Haven?
Yeah, let's do it.
Fantastic.
It's
Cool.
being unlimited money before my eyes.
Yeah, all you need to do is get
Um,
two other friends to buy products from you, and then they can sell them to other people, and everyone gets to make profit.
might sound a lot like a pyramid scheme, but those don't exist in Haven, so I
What is a
don't
pyramid?
know what I'm on about. It's a pyramid.
Yeah, I don't see any pyramids in Kairos.
I mean, they are based on ancient Greece, which famously didn't have pyramids, so
See?
I don't.
Based and correct.
Yeah.
Cool. We are at 1 hour and 20 minutes and 30 seconds as of now. Um, we have not discussed combat yet. Would you like to do that as a separate episode?
Yeah, I think it'd be fun just to talk about the combat system in general, especially once we maybe talk about the situation that we had with Empire this weekend. Not to compare systems, but
It's not like we
um,
do that in every
we
episode.
but we did have some like things happen with combat that just made Menace seem a little bit more like cinematic. But we'll get onto it. We'll come back.
Yeah,
We'll leave you guys wanting more.
exactly. So until then, dear adventurers of Haven, buy Havon. Look after your skin and your body, and make sure those nasty fallen don't get their hands on you. And until next time, goodbye.